Lt. Col.Tony Shaffer. Tony, we called this.
Hey, Jack.
We called this a week ago.
We did last week.
We called this a week ago. When we said, we even got the number right, because people had said originally that it might be $45 billion for Ukraine. We said that it would be $60 billion for Ukraine, and you came on this program a week ago and you said $6 billion, $60 billion, or $600 billion. It's not going to change the facts on the ground. Walk me through your view of this new foreign aid package, where, look, don't take it from me, but Chuck Schumer is saying that the Democrats got everything they wanted out of this.
Of course. So there's no sense of controlling the House, who's supposed to be the origin of all bills relating to finance regarding appropriation. It doesn't matter if you control it or not. If you've got Speaker Johnson willing to go along and give the Democrats everything, which is what's going on. And I'm a constitutional guy. We've talked about this, Jack. The two governing principles of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution is common good, common defense. So I'm trying hard to see where there's common good here for the American people in these bills. And most certainly, there's nothing to do with the common defense. The common defense being that concept that if the Congress and the executive branch do things, those things should benefit the American people. Common good, or protect the American people, common defense. These things are bloated. They pay off. They're a patronage to those political supporters. I would argue, especially the billions going to Ukraine is being washed. A lot of that money comes back to the Democrats. Oh, by the way, that they don't even hide the fact that it helps fund the American arms industry. Eisenhower warned us of the military-industrial complex. Well, here you see example A of the military-industrial complex working to enrich itself. And somehow we're supposed to believe, we who actually do believe in personal freedom and the idea that we should have oversight and accountability of government spending, and most importantly, any spending that is made from appropriated dollars is considered to be in the interest of the common good or common defense. Nothing in this benefits the American people or the nation itself. It's a travesty.
Of course, what you're quoting right there, or paraphrasing / quoting, is the preamble to the United States Constitution.
That's right.
Ensure establish justice. So, more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Posterity. So, I want to remind people by the way, that when the Constitution says our posterity, that doesn't mean that the United States was founded to be a nation of immigrants, the huddled masses and all this. No, sorry, Ezra Lazarus. Just because you wrote some poem, that doesn't make it the U.S. law, and it doesn't change U.S. history. Our posterity means the people of this country, not the people of the world. And
That's right.
The people of this country have a specific, and we've been blessed. We've been blessed with an abundance of resources. We've been blessed with abundance of land, and that's why the United States has typically and traditionally welcomed in so many people. At this point,
right?
The United States is full. But here's the problem: when a government that we have currently cares more about an international system, and Tony, this is really what's going on right now, is that our government cares more about the international system than it does about the people it's supposed to represent. We call this the collective West, we call this the neoliberal order, we call this globalism. Many people have different names for it, but that's really the issue we're seeing here, isn't it?
It is. So to that point, I don't know of any reason that my tax dollars or any other tax dollars from anyone should be going to support. There's like a puppet theater in Kiev that apparently we've been paying to keep open. Really? I don't think that's in our interest. I don't think I live in a very rural community here in North Carolina. I'm on the Social Services Board, and Jack, we're always trying to figure out how to best use funds to support the needs of the disadvantaged. So how is our providing money for the Ukrainian civil service, the Ukrainian economy, how is that benefiting the people I actually work to support here in rural North Carolina who are poor, disadvantaged? Some can't even get the treatment they need for, Obamacare really took care of them because they don't get the treatment they need now. So how is it that we have all this money, billions to spend on this foreign intervention in a civil war, by the way, yeah, I guess we didn't learn our lesson from Vietnam. Jumping into a civil war there didn't really work out for us either. But here we are, deja vu all over again, trying to actually persuade a nation that is not related to any interest of the United States that somehow we're propping them up. We're going to give them all this cash, and we're going to support your puppet theater. We're going to support your civil service. I don't know how any of this, Jack, does anything except add to the chaos. And by the way, everything that has been done hasn't supported deterrence. Vladimir Putin is not deterred. He's stronger than ever. His military has been rebuilt. So
Is
that's
Putin
a failure.
Deterred? Who's deterred? Is Putin deterred? Is Iran deterred? Is Hezbollah deterred that was sending suicide bombs into northern Israel today? Who exactly is deterred? Is Hamas deterred? I don't think Hamas seems very deterred right now.
No.
I mean, they're getting schwacked into oblivion right now, which is pretty much the only thing you can do. That's by the way what happens when you lose deterrence. When you lose deterrence, that's when you have to bring out the missiles and just start going crazy. And that's why we're in the situation that we are right now. But it's a joke to me when I see these things. But Tony, I really want to ask you about this idea, because we hear it over and over. The collective West. What is the collective West? What is the neoliberal order? And we've just got a couple of minutes left, but we're going to hold you up for the next segment. Why is the collective West and the neoliberal order more important than the needs of our own people?
So the neoliberal / neocons are the problem. These are the people who actually present a front of democracy to the world, but they're the biggest corporate shills behind the scenes. This is all about money. It's about control. It's about a handful of oligarchs who control things. And that's what's going on here. The collective West, NATO and others, want to continue to see their power enhanced. That's why it's all about trying to control things, not create conditions for prosperity. And that's why you see these folks, COVID, they were all in on COVID, that was, by the way, a real quick note on that was the largest single period in history of the transfer of wealth from the middle class to the rich. It's all about trying to benefit a handful and disadvantage everybody else, but put the happiest face on it, like, oh, Bill Gates, we just want to help you with our it's like, no, you don't. You didn't care before, you don't care now. You're just trying to do things to advantage yourself. And it's this group that have decided that they know better than us what's best for us. It's all about this utopian dream. Klaus Schwab kind of outlined it in the World Economic Forum, and that's why we see this. The policies they put forth benefit them and literally create chaos for everyone else.
And it's fascinating to me, and I think that people need to understand, because people say when Tony comes on here and we have these explanations of why the United States is doing what it's doing in Ukraine, and we ask these questions: why are we spending so much money? Why are we doing this? Why are so many Ukrainians being sent to their death? Why is Ukraine lowering the age to be conscription, which is something else that Tony has been coming on here for months and saying was coming? Zelensky just signed this new draconian order.
They finally did it.
Lower the age of conscription. That this is going to come because it's manpower is the issue, and nothing is going to change that other than and then once you run out of Ukrainians, the only next left available pool for manpower is NATO. And that's why you're starting to hear people say NATO is coming in. But I want to dig into this more, because people need to understand this is why you're getting no money for the border. This is why you're getting no money for all the things that are going around the country, but there's $100 billion being spent on these foreign wars. Stay tuned. Human Events. Tony Shaffer is our guest. Tony, Lt.Col.Tony Shaffer. Tony, and the comments are incensed. They're furious. I said, why is it that we have guys who come up through the Freedom Caucus, who come up, they say, oh, I'm a MAGA Republican, I'm a huge supporter, I'm America first, and then they get in, and suddenly they turn around and it's whoa, we gotta do the FISA bill, and then we gotta do $100 billion in foreign aid. Don't worry about the border. The foreign aid is what matters more. How is it that we have this neoliberal junta, and I'm just going to call it like it is? It's a junta. It's a regime that has imposed itself sort of on top of our republic. It supersedes our republic. It supersedes the Constitution. It supersedes the way the system is supposed to work, like a blanket laying over it, a heavy blanket, right? What do they call them? Gravity blankets, and it weighs down the Constitution. And so we'll get to all that other constitutional stuff lately, but only after the needs of the junta, the needs of the regime are met. How did we get here?
Well, that's a great question about how do people who run on specific points of constitutionality and loyalty to the concepts of the founding father, how do they not stay true to them? Well, I honestly don't know the answer to that question, because I'm only friends with those who stayed loyal to it. Louis Gohmert, my friend Louis Gohmert, Judge Gohmert, was always loyal. One of my dear friends now passed, Walter Jones. I now live in his former district. Walter was dogged and completely loyal to the concepts that he believed were important, and he was always a stick in the mud. He would not go along with the corporate Republicans on doing things. And so those are the people I'm used to dealing with. And I can't speak to how people depart from their concepts, what's in it for them. And I guess that's the issue. You have to go back and look at what's in it for them, Jack, because apparently somewhere, when they arrive on Capitol Hill, something happens. Now, there's been rumors, I think, is it Madison Cawthorn talked about the drug parties and the prostitutes. I think some people are targeted. I know for a fact that there are groups within Washington, the deep state groups. I don't know how to describe them otherwise. Kind of those who are out to subvert, those who would want to stay principled and work against the interest of the neocons and neoliberals. But it becomes something of a curiosity that results in what we're seeing now, where again, the hard work that the founding fathers did to establish a republic is literally being subdued and subverted by interests who basically are raiding the Treasury. Right now, there's no link between appropriation of money, that is your taxes, and the money spent because they just print more money, putting us forever in debt. There's no interest in linking our national security to the protection of the American people. Now it's all about essentially a new form of colonialism. Think about that, Jack. We know the left is always against colonialism, yet somehow you're now doing expeditionary operations to support other countries that are not related to the United States interest. Ukraine is more related to Europe than it is us, but we're the ones footing the bill. All these things people see, they don't necessarily understand the context, and what you are doing, what I'm trying to do, is give them an understanding is that it's bad as you think it is. And those people you vote to go to Washington, they become completely subordinated to this larger effort of the deep state or neoliberals and neo fascists who were basically the Democrat Party. And by the way, the Democrat Party seems to always get its way by some magical way. You know, I can't believe that nobody stands up to it.
I've got a little bit of, because people are sending me messages as we're going through the show today. So here's what I'd like people to do. Here's a phone number for you to call. This is Speaker Johnson's office, 202-225-2777. 202-225-2777. And I have a question for everybody out there in the audience to ask. And specifically, I've got a name for them to ask about. The name is Dan Ziegler. Dan Ziegler, who is Speaker Johnson's policy director. What I'm being told is that Dan Ziegler has been pushing Speaker Johnson to push Ukraine aid without border security provisions.
Insane.
Now, we're being told that the border is a separate rule, but that he's been the major voice in Johnson's ear. And I got a question for Dan Ziegler. So when it comes to Speaker Johnson and to everybody else, here's my piece. Do you work for Vladimir Zelensky or do you work for the American people? Which is it? So I'd like for people to go ahead, politely and respectfully, peacefully and patriotically, call every single one of you, call Speaker Johnson's office and ask about Dan Ziegler, the Speaker's policy director.
Just so you know, Ziegler is acting on the neolib effort to basically make up to all those businesses, BlackRock and others, who were promised, you help us with Ukraine, you can carve Ukraine up and use it as a resource for EU, and Russia's going to collapse. None of that happened. So they don't get their money. So this is all about a payoff to those corporate interests, Jack, in some form. because they were promised Russia, didn't get Russia. They were promised Putin would fail, they didn't fail. They were promised Ukraine would be a permanent member of the EU, ain't going to happen. All these promises were made. This $60 billion is a consolation prize, and that's why Ziegler is probably linked to this group in some form, which I'd be curious to find out.
Well, and this is the thing, right? Is when we went over there, my Human Events Daily, we were one of the first American programs on the ground. We went all the way down to Odessa. We went to Nikolaev. We got as far as the Kherson Highway, and this is when Russia was still in Kherson, by the way, before they had crossed the river. And we saw what was going on down there. This war has been devastating for the Ukrainian people. It's been devastating for their demographics, devastating for their population. The Ukrainians have not been on the winning side of this war. We've been saying that for day one. That's why we've been calling for an end to this. And it's incredulous to me because you'll hear every day, ceasefire in Gaza, ceasefire in Gaza, ceasefire in Gaza. Nobody ever calls for a ceasefire in Ukraine. I've never heard it once.
Nope.
Why not
once.
call for a ceasefire? Why not have people come out there and say, let's at least have a ceasefire. Let's have some kind of, an armistice. An armistice is not a treaty. It's not a peace deal. Freeze the conflict. Freeze something. They won't do it. And because they haven't done this, because they've been continuing to push, this is why Russia does not feel that they need to adhere to deterrence at all. That's why deterrence has completely failed, because diplomacy has failed, because nobody's even tried to do this. And when they ask Russia about this, they say, Istanbul option off the table. And what did that last guy say at the UN when he went up there? He said the only thing that Kiev should be negotiating right now is unconditional surrender. Now, this wasn't the ambassador, but if you've got some Russian official saying unconditional surrender, he's not saying that without the approval of folks in the Kremlin, or at least people higher up that are on his back. These are the hardliners of Russia. There's all those guys, we'll take Putin out. Yeah, you take Putin out, you're going to get one of those guys in charge. Tony, the fact of the matter is, the Ukrainian people have not done well. They've not benefited from this war.
No.
Who benefits?
Not at all.
Who benefits?
Well, again, the global order. This was done. The Obama folks did this to move the Ukraine resources into the EU. The EU wanted to have unlimited resources regarding gas, natural gas, other things. And when they found all this in the Donbass, they figured, we'll just make Ukraine a member of the EU. And by the way, we'll collapse Russia in the process. That's what it was all about. The Biden folks, the neocons, neolibs, both thought it would happen. And it didn't happen. It's not going to happen. And the price that's been paid is by the American taxpayer, and more directly and fatally, the people of Ukraine. I feel for the people of Ukraine. They were sold a bill of goods. They were lied to. And that lie continues, and it's going to result in the complete defeat of and probably the failure of the nation itself into a rump state of Ukraine if people don't wake up and figure out what's going on. And I'm just going to say this: if they give them the $61 billion, Jack, we should ask for Odessa and the entire green T-shirt collection of Zelensky for collateral. Just saying. So.
You want the green T-shirts? Yeah, we can sell. We can put them up on. Put them up on auction them off. That's right. For like CNN and Jim Acosta and Jake Tapper.
Number 5.
Jake Tapper will spend millions of dollars on that thing. Please let me wear the shirt.
Right.
Let me wear the shirt. Oh my gosh, Tony.
So Alex over at the Duran talks about Zelensky. Yeah, Alex over at the Duran talks about Zelensky number 5. Make sure that Zelensky fragrance comes off the
Zelensky number 5.
Yeah, make sure that comes off the T-shirts. It adds to the value.
Alex and Alexander over at the Duran.
Yeah.
Great guys. Love those guys. Tony, where can people follow you? Where can they get more information?
ProjectSentinel.net.com, Twitter. You and I are always active on Twitter. I've been seeing people following us on Twitter, so always a pleasure to join you, Jack, especially when we were right on something, and we've been right on a lot lately, which is unfortunate. But then again, I guess our job is
we hadn't been.
Tell the truth.
I say it once a week. I say, you know what? This is what's going to happen. This is my assessment. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm not right about this. I would prefer to be wrong. I would prefer to be surprised, but nope, not happening. What can I say?